All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive into a question I think a lot of us have thought about.
Yeah.
Why do men leave long-term relationships?
Hmm.
To get at some possible answers, we're looking at this YouTube video
Okay.
from a channel called Pas votre frère,
Oh,
which translates to Not Your Brother.
interesting.
The video is called Pourquoi les hommes viennent vous passent votre temps et partent,
Hmm.
which means why men come waste your time and leave.
Wow.
Pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah, definitely a title that grabs you.
Yeah. And probably geared towards a specific audience,
Yeah,
right?
I would say so.
Yeah, the video is actually a response to a letter from a 33-year-old successful Ivorian woman.
Okay.
She's struggling to understand why her relationships keep ending.
Interesting.
What I thought was interesting is the speaker offering advice is a man.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of giving us a male perspective
Yeah.
on a topic that usually centers on women's experiences.
That's key. Like, whose voice are we hearing and what is their background? This already hints at the cultural layer that I'm sure will be impacted.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, this is a relationship advice channel.
Okay.
It's not a sociological study.
All right.
But
Yeah.
the speaker makes some bold claims I think are worth exploring.
Okay, let's hear it.
His core argument is that men don't get into relationships to waste time.
Mm-hmm.
If they stay for 6 months or more, they were serious,
Yeah.
but something made them leave.
So that's an interesting place to start because it kind of implies intentionality.
Yeah.
It pushes back on that idea that men are just inherently commitment phobic.
Right.
If a man invests significant time, this speaker is suggesting that he saw potential for a future.
Exactly.
So what changes?
And that's where things get a little spicy.
Okay.
He says the reason men leave is that they discover the woman has a bad behavior
Oh.
or isn't who they initially appeared to be.
Okay, so now we're getting somewhere.
Right.
So instead of just surface level incompatibility, he's suggesting that men seek authenticity and consistency in their partners.
Uh-huh.
They become disillusioned if they perceive a discrepancy
Yes.
between the initial presentation and the reality of the relationship.
He gives some specific examples
Okay.
of what he considers these bad behaviors.
Like what?
Being argumentative, disrespectful, overly focused on career, poor money management skills.
So these examples are interesting because they're touching on different facets of compatibility.
Right.
Like, it's not just liking the same movies.
Right.
It's about communication styles, respect for the partner, and shared views on things like finances.
And here's where the cultural lens gets even more pronounced.
Okay.
He talks about the importance of politeness and gentleness,
Mm-hmm.
and specifically contrasts African and Western relationship values.
Mm-hmm.
He observes that African women traditionally embody these qualities,
Yeah.
which contribute to stronger relationships in his view.
So this is where things can get a little tricky. He seems to be suggesting that modern emancipated values, right, and we'll have to unpack what exactly he means by that,
Yeah.
might be a source of relationship instability, and that's a perspective that pushes back against some common narratives around progress and equality.
It makes you think about how cultural norms and societal shifts might influence
Totally.
our expectations
Yeah.
and outcomes in relationships.
Big time.
What one culture considers a strength might be perceived very differently in another.
Absolutely, and we're already seeing how this deep dive isn't just about men leaving.
Yeah.
It's about all those unspoken expectations we bring into relationships.
Right.
And how those might clash.
Exactly. And it gets even more complex when he says, for men, it's not just about physical intimacy.
Right.
They're looking for partners who can listen,
Mhm.
understand, offer solutions, and bring intellectual value to the relationship.
This is a point I think that could resonate regardless of culture.
Right.
It speaks to that need for intellectual compatibility and
Yeah.
emotional intelligence in a partnership.
You know, it's not just about the spark.
Yeah.
It's about connecting on a deeper level,
Right.
sharing ideas, supporting each other's growth.
He even goes as far to say that a woman's career can become a show
Okay.
that overshadows the relationship
Mhm.
and diminishes her role as a wife and mother.
That's a loaded statement for sure.
Yeah.
It seems to imply a preference for those traditional gender roles.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
where the woman's primary focus is the family.
Yeah.
But it also raises questions about balance, right?
Yeah.
How do we, in a society that encourages ambition for both genders, also nurture the space for fulfilling relationships?
Right.
I mean, that's something so many couples grapple with,
Right.
regardless of cultural background.
It makes you think about how individual aspirations might sometimes clash
Yeah.
with that traditional model of a relationship.
Yeah.
How do we reconcile those two things? It's tough.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that this video is offering one perspective.
Right. Colored by the speaker's own experiences and cultural background,
Yeah.
what he's calling emancipated values might be seen as empowerment by others.
Right.
But that core tension he's highlighting,
Yeah.
that shift in relationship dynamics as society changes,
Mm-hmm.
that's something very real.
He also dives into the idea of value added in a relationship.
Okay.
What you bring to the table beyond just the initial attraction.
Mm-hmm.
He suggests that men are looking for partners
Yeah.
who enrich their lives in multiple ways,
Right.
whether it's intellectual stimulation,
Yeah.
emotional support, shared goals,
Mm-hmm.
or simply bringing joy and laughter.
So it sounds like he's saying that long-term relationships
Yeah.
need to be more than just the honeymoon phase.
Right.
It's about compatibility,
Right.
shared values, mutual respect,
Mm-hmm.
the foundations that sustain a relationship through those ups and downs.
Yes.
It's easy to be swept away at the start, but what happens when things get tough?
He uses an interesting analogy.
He's saying that a man needs a woman who's like a lion tamer,
A lion
someone who can calm him down when he's angry,
Okay.
just like a lion tamer can control the powerful lion.
So that's a powerful image, and it really speaks to a very traditional view
Yeah.
of masculinity and femininity.
Right?
It reinforces the idea that men need a calming, supportive presence in their lives,
Mm-hmm.
while women should possess the strength and wisdom to manage their partner's emotions.
Right.
This might resonate with some, while others might find it a little outdated
Sure.
or even problematic,
Yeah.
but it does reflect a certain set of expectations
Yeah.
that some men might bring into relationships.
And he contrasts this with what he sees as the new mentality of some women
Okay.
who are overly focused on their careers and independence,
Mm.
suggesting that this can lead to relationship instability.
So he seems to be implying that these women prioritize individual ambition
Right.
over those traditional relationship roles.
Yeah.
And this is where those nuances of feminism come in.
He's painting with a broad stroke here.
Sure.
But there are so many different schools of feminist thought,
Right.
some of which do emphasize the importance of partnership and family
Yeah.
alongside individual goals.
He brings up an anecdote about a woman he knows
Okay.
who complains about men wasting her time.
Okay.
But he actually believes that she's the one wasting their time
Interesting.
because of her attitude and behavior.
Like what?
He lists things like her inability to manage money,
Mm-hmm.
her lack of respect for him,
Okay.
and her tendency to be argumentative.
So this anecdote is interesting because it flips the script.
Yeah.
It suggests that women also have a responsibility to reflect
Right.
on their own behavior and how it might contribute to relationship challenges.
Mm-hmm.
It's a reminder that relationships are a two-way street
Yeah.
and both partners need to be willing to put in the effort.
It seems like he's ultimately saying that men are looking for partners, not projects.
Okay.
They want someone who is already in a good place, emotionally, financially, and personally,
Mm-hmm.
and who shares their values and vision for the future.
He's suggesting that men seek a certain level of stability and compatibility,
Yes.
not just a romantic connection.
Right.
And while his views are traditional,
Mm-hmm.
it's worth considering how much of that resonates with that broader desire
Yeah.
for partnership,
Right.
built on shared goals and mutual respect.
It's been fascinating unpacking this video.
I know, right?
We've touched upon cultural differences,
Mm-hmm.
societal shifts,
Yeah.
and the complexities of balancing individual aspirations with relationship needs.
For sure.
There's clearly a lot to think about here.
Absolutely. And remember, this is just one perspective offered through a specific cultural lens,
Right.
but it highlights the importance of open communication, self-awareness,
Yeah.
and a willingness to understand different viewpoints
Right.
if we want to build healthy, fulfilling relationships.
This feels like we've only scratched the surface.
I know, right?
Think about it. This video's going viral,
Yeah.
clearly resonating with people,
Yeah,
but it's also generating some controversy.
right.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's tapping into something very real.
Yeah.
On the one hand, his views on gender roles and expectations might seem outdated to some, especially in more progressive circles.
Right.
But on the other hand, that emphasis on mutual respect,
Yeah.
shared values, and the importance of both partners bringing something to the table,
Right.
that speaks to a fundamental human desire
Yeah.
for a balanced and fulfilling relationship.
It's almost like he's pushing back against this whole idea of settling
Right.
or accepting a relationship that's one-sided or draining.
Totally.
And in that sense, I think there's a message that's relevant for everyone,
For sure.
regardless of gender or cultural background.
Exactly. He might be framing it within a very traditional framework, but that core idea
Yeah.
that relationships should be enriching and mutually beneficial,
Right.
and that resonates universally. And it's forcing people to examine their own expectations and behaviors in relationships.
Right.
You know, are you giving as much as you're taking? Are you
Yeah.
truly compatible on a deeper level?
Right.
These are questions we should all be asking ourselves.
And that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating. We're not just talking about why men leave.
Right.
We're actually exploring the very essence of what makes a relationship work.
And it highlights the importance of communication, right?
Yes.
Being honest with yourself and your partner about your needs and your expectations.
Yeah.
So often we assume that the other person should just know what we want or how we feel,
Right.
but that's a recipe for disaster.
Uh-huh.
The speaker, in his own way, is advocating for a more intentional approach to relationships,
Yeah.
where both partners are clear about what they bring to the table and what they expect in return.
It's like he's saying, don't waste time on a relationship that isn't serving you both.
Exactly.
And that's a powerful message.
It is.
Even if you don't agree with everything he says.
Right, and it goes back to that question of compatibility. It's not just about finding someone who checks all the boxes on your list. It's about finding someone who compliments you, challenges you,
Yeah.
and helps you grow as a person.
Right.
And that requires a deep understanding of yourself and what you truly value in a partner.
This whole discussion has me thinking about how much societal expectations play a role
No, totally.
in our relationship choices.
Yeah.
He's obviously speaking from a very specific cultural perspective.
Right.
But are there broader societal pressures that influence how men and women approach relationships?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we're bombarded with messages about what a successful relationship should look like.
We're all navigating this complex landscape of expectations and societal norms.
Right.
Think about it. We have these romanticized notions of love and relationships, often perpetuated by the media and popular culture, that don't always align with the realities of long-term partnership.
Right.
And then you layer on top of that the pressures of career, family, personal ambitions.
Yeah.
It's no wonder so many people struggle to find and maintain healthy relationships.
It's a lot to unpack, and I think this video, whether intentionally or not,
Yeah.
has opened up a Pandora's box of questions
For sure.
about what we want and expect from relationships in the 21st century.
And that's the power of a good deep dive.
Yeah.
It's not about providing all the answers.
Right.
It's about sparking a thoughtful conversation and encouraging self-reflection.
So what are some takeaways our listeners can walk away with from this deep dive? I mean, where do we even begin to apply these insights?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's about being honest with yourself.
Okay.
What are your non-negotiables in a relationship?
Right.
What are your values, your goals, your
Yeah.
needs, and are you communicating those clearly to your partner?
Right.
It's also about recognizing that relationships require effort from both sides.
Yeah.
It's not about finding the perfect person. It's about finding someone who's willing to work alongside you to build something meaningful.
It also seems like there's a message here about not being afraid to walk away
Yeah,
from a relationship that isn't serving you.
totally.
You know, it's okay to prioritize your own well-being and happiness, even if it means going against societal expectations or cultural norms.
Absolutely. And that ties into the importance of self-awareness.
Yes.
Are you staying in a relationship out of fear, obligation, or societal pressure?
Right.
Or are you truly choosing to be there because it brings you joy and fulfillment?
This has been an incredibly thought-provoking conversation.
It has.
We've gone way beyond just the initial question of why men leave.
Right.
And I think we've all learned something about the complexities of relationships
Yeah.
and the importance of navigating them with intentionality and open communication.
It's a reminder that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to relationships.
Right.
What works for one couple might not work for another.
Right.
But the key is to be mindful, to be communicative, and to be honest with yourself and your partner about what you truly want and need.
And on that note, I think we'll leave our listener with a final thought.
Okay.
In a world where we're constantly bombarded with messages about what a successful relationship should look like, how do we define success on our own terms?
Right.
And how do we create relationships that are truly fulfilling and authentic to who we are?
That's the question.
It's a question worth pondering, and perhaps one that will continue to evolve
Yeah.
as we navigate the ever-changing landscape of love and relationships.